String manipulation in Power Automate is an important concept. Here's how to do it. So first we create a flow. So I'll say create, choose instant cloud flow, and let's give our flow a name. I will call mine string manipulation like this, and then choose manually trigger a flow and click create. Here's our blank canvas. We can start adding steps to it. So I want to initialize two variables that will hold two different parts of a text that we can work on. Very simple. So I click new step, and then in choose an operation, I'll say initialize variable, click here. So here I want to say, I want to rename it first. So because we have two, so I'll say initialize variable, our text first part like this. So, and similarly, we'll give the name of the variable to this, our first text part. So enter a variable name, I'll give it this. The type, that will be a string, because we're doing string manipulations. And here I want to give it a value. I will say Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. And if you know where this is from, let me know in the comments below. So that is our first variable. Similarly, we'll create the next one here. So I'll find a initialize variable like this, and then give it a name. And this one will be our text second part. So we will just reuse the syntax here. It's always best practice to rename your variables, because that way, when you come back to your flows, you can easily recognize what's going on, or your colleague can. So I'll copy this and give it the name as well. This one will also be a string. And here I want to say, thank you very much, like this. So that's all it, and maybe a dot. So that is the two strings that we're going to work on. Let's first say that we want to concat these two. That is, we want this to be the first part of the sentence and this one to be the next one. So we will do another step, and then we'll have a compose. So here I'll search for a compose and pick that one here. Let's just rename that as well, because we will be creating quite a few composes. So here I will say concat. So now we need to do expressions. When we do string manipulations in Power Automate, we cannot do it directly here. We just need to click here and then click the expression. If this doesn't show up, say it looks like this, or it looks like this, then you can just click here and you'll get this menu. Make sure you go to expression. And the first thing that we want to use, that is concat. So I will say concat. You can even see the IntelliSense helps me a bit. Concat, and then the parentheses start. Here I want the first text, and here I want to call this variable up here, and that variable, we named that our first, our text first part. So I will just start writing here. So I'll say variables like this, parentheses, then single quotation marks, and then I'll say our text first part like this. But then I want to move outside the first parentheses, have a comma, and now I can write text number 2. And that is just following the same syntax. It's our text second part. So again, variables, parentheses, quotation marks, and our text second part like this. And I can click OK. It will give us an error. We don't have an error here. So now we have concating these two things. Let's just save it and let's test it to see that everything works well. So we'll click test manually, run the flow, and it will run immediately. So if I go down here and compose concat and click it, here you can see in the outputs that Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive are proud to say that are perfect and normal. Thank you very much. We have now concatening these two strings up here. Let's move on. Now we had the first one. So now we want a substring. A substring can, we use an index and then we can get some text printed out. It looks like this. find a new step, take compose again. So this one will be substring. So I click these 3 dots here and then I'll say rename. So here I will say substring like this. And I want to have the private drive printed out. And let's just talk what that is. So if I go up here and so I am starting here and I want this private drive to be printed out. And the first position is 0. So this is 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. So a bit hard to count in English when it is not my native language, but that's fine. So number 37. Remember, the first character in a string is always number 0. So that is just how it is in programming. So now I want to say, I want to get the substring out, and that is this private drive. Again, I can just go, I move down to compose substring, go to expression here, and then I'll say substring like this, parentheses, and now I need to get the first text. Since I wanted the text from up here, again, I'll just say variables, parentheses, and then single quotation marks, and then our text first part. Again, this one comes from the name of the variable up here. So I'm looking at this text, and then I can say comma, and then I need a start index. Here I wanted number 37. I click OK. It says that the expression is invalid. It is not. So now I can save and test. So click test, save and test, and run the flow in a few seconds. So now we can run the flow. Let me click here. And we can click done. So now in the compose substring, we can actually see that the show raw outputs here, that we're getting everything from the pivot drive and forth. So that's it. But let's say that we only wanted, our mission was to only get the pivot drive out, or maybe just the pivot. So in that way, we can say, I want to start at position 37, and then I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 characters. Or I can, if I wanted to drive as well, I can say 7, 8, blah, blah, blah. But let's just take 6 characters. So let's click edit, go in here, and then I move into the expression. And after number 37, I can put in 6. Sometimes I will give you this. Sometimes Power Automate Cloud doesn't update or when we edit our expression. So what I usually do is to Control-A, Control-C, just to make sure I have it in my clipboard before I click update. Because now, I just hover my mouse over, you can see it actually disappeared. So what I recommend you doing is to delete this, have the expression, paste it in from scratch. It will give you this again, and it will get there. So now we can save and test again, just to see that we can actually get it out. So here I will manually test it. That's fine. And you can see in my compose substring, we have now only the street name printed out. That was the pivot. So that was our mission. And let me introduce you to a new string function in Power Automate that is a bit more cool. A little bit more cool than substring at least. So I'll click new step. Then I'll find another compose. We'll do a lot of composes. And here I will call this slice, like this. And what this it just take a slide of a text, but we can refer to it in a little bit different way. So go over to your expression, then write slice. And then you want to say variables like this. And we want to have our text first part. So our text first part like this, and do like this. Now we need to specify a start and a end index. So it will look like this. So we're saying we start at 37, that we did before, but now we're just specifying where we want to end. And again, out of previous damage, I always copy these expressions out if they disappeared. So now we have this slice up here, let me test it, save and test, run the flow, and then click done. So now if I go down here, you can see that we printed out the privet as well. This actually also can print out negative indexes. So say that I'm doing this in the slice, I go over here, and instead of these two, I just want to say -6. And that will start from the start of our text, and then it will move backwards to the end of our text. So let me just, again, update it. You can see that we don't get it updated, so always just copy this. I can recommend doing so. So now I am saving and testing here, and we're running. And now we actually get normal out, and that is because that is the last 6 characters of our text that we are doing the slice on. So you can use negative numbers here. So now we want to introduce a replace. So I'll click new step here, and I'll do a compose. And we want to do the replace. So again, we just rename it so we can see what's going on if we want to come back to this. This is a good reference flow if you want to learn more about string functions later than today. So here I'll say expression, and I wanted to do a replace. So I'll say replace, and sometimes you can actually see these IntelliSense disappears. If that happens, you can save your flow, go out and go in again. But let's just write them out. But now you know if they disappear, you can easily just get it back by saving, go out, go in. That's one of the workarounds we do here in Power Automate, no problem. So here I'll say replace, and I'll say variables like this. And I want to have our text first part. So our text first part like this, just like we did before. Then I want to comma. Then I want to say, what do I want to replace? That will be Dursley. And what do I want to write instead? I want to write Jensen like this. So again, let me just do this. And we have our replace. So now I will test it, and I'll click run flow here. And this one, if I go down to compose replace, now you can see Mr. and Mrs. Jensen instead of Dursley. So that's how you do a replace. We also often want to do toUpper and toLower, and that is especially when we want to compare two strings. We want to make sure that capital letters are the same in both of the strings that we're comparing. Imagine that we get one string out from one system and one string out from another system. Sometimes it will capital letters in one of them. So it will look like this. So I find a compose like this. And here I will rename it, I'll say toUpper. So again, I go down to my expression here, and then I'll say toUpper. Then I'll say a parentheses, and now I just need to say what string do I want to work on. Again, you'll get used to variables. You'll get used to refer to these things. So our text first part like this. And so this one is just transferring this variable to a uppercase string. So we do this, we save it, and then we can test it. So I'll test it, I'll do it manually, I'll run it. And if I go down here, you can see everything is capital letters. You can also do a toLower that will make everything lowercases. It doesn't really matter when we want to compare and we don't, when it's not case sensitive, our comparison, you can just convert it to upper or to lower. We can also have an index. An indexOf finds the index of an element. Say I want to search for example, let's go up here in the initialize variable. Say I want to know at what character position is number on. Then I can take a new step, find a compose, and do like this. So this one will be renamed to indexOf, like this. And now I want to say, go over to expression again. And here I want to say indexOf. And first I need to say, what string do I want to look on? You will get the drill. Variables, parentheses, single quotation marks, our text first part. Do like this, and then go outside the first parentheses, have a comma like this, and then I want to search for number. So in single quotation marks, do like this, and then we can get it out like this. Now I want to test it. So it does like this, and you can see the number is at position 24. That looks fine. It was less than privet. It's around here. That should be 25, or it is. We can also find the nth index of. So for example, we can find the nth occurrence of an element. That is, if we want to find the first, the second, the third, and so forth. It looks like this. So I'll take a new step. Then I'll find a compose like this. I will rename it to nthIndexOf like this. Go into my expressions again. Here I'll say nthIndexOf, and I want to look in the variables again. That is our text first part like this. And then I want to say, what do I want to look for? Let's look for Mr. in single quotation marks like this. And let me get the first occurrence. That will be the same as before. That's just the first index. So here I will move it here, save and test, and run the flow. And again, these strings functions are so important, so I really hope you pay close attention. So here you can say that this Mr. that was at index 0, and let's look at that. That's fine. That one was the first position, and that was 0 indexed. So again, repeating, that was 0 indexed. What if I go in here, and then let me move over here. Oh, sorry, I deleted the comma. I needed to delete the 1 here and made a 2 instead. So again, I copy it out. And here you can see that we didn't actually, Power Automate didn't update it. So I need to do like this. And it's those workarounds you need to learn as a Power Automate developer. So now I take the number 2. Let's save and test and see what's going on. So I'll run the flow, click done. And now if I go down here, it says 8. Why is that? Well, let me just edit it up here. You can see that there's another Mr. here. We only search for MR. If we had a dot, it wouldn't find anything. So that's the syntax. We can also have a, let's have another compose. You are learning a lot of string functions. I will give you that in this lesson. And it might seem boring, but it will be very effectful for you when you are going to create your automations. Now we want to do a lastIndexOf, and then I want to say, I want to look at my variables again. That will be our text first part like this, and do like this. So now I want to say, what's the last index? And let us just pick Mr. again, like this. And if you want to take a wild guess on what index comes out, because here we're searching for the text and then we want to find the index, then let me know before this flow ran. So let's move in here. And again, that was 8. That is the last Mr. in the sentence. I'll edit it here. And let me just rename that as well and say lastIndexOf like this. We can also have a startsWith. And if I click new step here, then I want to say compose like this. Go over to expression, and then I want to say startsWith like this. Variables, single quotation marks, our text first part, and then I'll have a single quotation marks. So here I will say, I just want to say, it will give us a true false value. We will look at this text and then I'll say, is this text starting with a, let's just pick Mr. again. So it will look like this. And I can click OK, test and run it, save and test. Like this. So, and here we are doing this, sorry. And move in here, that will give us a true. That was because our text started with Mr., so it gave us a true. But what if we pick the second part instead of the first part? Let us just do that, and let me just rename this as well, so we have it nicely there. So if I go in here in the expression, and I just change our text first part to our text second part, copy it, I updated it, and now you'll see that it didn't update, so always just copy paste. So that's the expression here, and I will do like this. So now it says, does this start with Mr.? That is the second part of the text. No, it doesn't. So it'll give us a false value. So now we will have the split, and that might be one of the most used string functions. We'll also talk a little bit about arrays. So we will have a split, and first we will have compose. So again, we will take a compose, and let's just take compose, and let's just say split like this. And then we want to split something. And what we want to do is that we want to say expression, and then we will say split variables, and then our text first part, do like this. Do like this, and then let's say we want to split the text by a comma, so in single quotation marks again, write in a comma. We will do this, and now we're splitting it. It looks like this, and we also talk about what variable type that this will come into, because let me just do this. So now we have a split here, and here you can see we have 3 elements, and that is because we have a comma here, and then we have this the third part. We can see that this is an array. You can see this by these hard brackets here. It's an array of 3 string elements. Say that we want to iterate through them. We can easily do that. We can easily refer to this to these 3 here, and we can do that by, let's start by iterating through it. So in a new step, I will find and apply to each. This one, an apply to each iterates to a collection. Here we will do it in this array with the array of 3 strings elements. So here I'll say apply to each, and what do I want to iterate through? If I click in here, now we can actually go into the compose split, and we get the output here. So if I just click this dynamic content, that one will choose the dynamic content. Now to get them out, each one of them, I will say add an action. Then I'll say compose here and do like this. So if I go in here, and then I want to say, I can say items, and then apply to each. That one will print out the different element, and it should of course be in the expression here. So, and again, I like to make these things here. You can see that I actually also make some brain farts here and there. That's important as a Power Automate developer. We are only humans, and we make mistakes in our code on a daily basis. I do as well. You just need to know how to fix that mistake. Now we run it. We're iterating through each one of them. You can see down here in the apply to each, it will just take a few seconds, and then we'll have it. There you go. So now if I click this, that is the first element of the array. That is the second one, and the third one. It's that easy. So now we did the split to an array. We iterated through it, but we can actually also just have a specific element in that array. So let's say I take new step here. I'll say compose like this. And let's just rename this to compose and then say get specific element of an array. So now what I will do here is that I will just take this compose split up here. That will be an output from this. And then I will work with it. So if I go over here, I will say the outputs from up there, and where do I want to look for it? That is the compose split like this, single quotation marks. Now I can just say this is the array I'm referring to. What item do I want? Remember, these arrays are zero indexed as well. So the first one is 0 and then 1 and 2. So I can just do like this. That will give me the second element, that is index 1. So I click OK here. Do it once more. Let me save and let us test it. So let us just do this. Let's again just wait a few seconds for this, and there you go. So now if I go down here, you can see that I get private drive out. That was index 1. That was the second element of, again, this array, and that is actually this one. So everything works well. Now let's take the last important string function. So let me just go up here. Let's say that I have a lot of spaces, might have spaces in the start and in the end. And I often want to, when I take data out of, for example, system emails or web pages, I often find these things here with these trailing spaces, or the trailing spaces or the starting spaces. We can easily do that with a trim. So I find a compose like this. So I'll say compose, and let me just rename that as well. So I'll say trim. I'll go into inputs, and then go over to expression. Here I'll say trim variables like this, and then I'll say our text first part, and I will have it like this. So now let me just save this. I haven't done that. Let us test it and see that we can actually get the spaces away. So now if I go down here, you can see that we have no spaces here and there. That's it. That's all for string functions. I prepared the next Power Automate lesson for you, and it's right here.